Decide on your principles. You know, I go to the dictionary a lot. Yeah, I know. So I'll just confess why. Most of the time, we take things for granted. We actually don't know where the words we're using come from. And so I make it up that if we know where it comes from, we might actually see or understand that word differently. And then I look at the definitions, because there are lots of definitions of every word. And I like to share the definitions because, again, I tend to see, even if I understand where the word comes from, I still tend to see it as applying in only a certain circumstance. And so I like to share other points of view. So I looked up principle. I mean, that's real easy. By the way, I always remember the principle, P-A-L, is your pal, is your buddy. That's the head of the story. The principle, L-E. Okay, that's what we're talking about today. Okay? So where the word principle comes from, if you go all the way back to the Latin, it actually means a beginning, or commencement, or origin, or foundation. So it's not just a good idea. It means way more than that. So then I went to our old friend Webster, and he defines a principle as, first of all, an accepted or professed rule of action or conduct. Accepted or professed. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but it's there. Okay. The second, a fundamental primary truth from which other truth is derived. The third, a personal or specific basis of conduct or management. And the fourth principle is an adopted rule or method of application in action. Actually, it could have been a unity. What do you know? Now, the implication of some of those definitions, and of course of the title of the talk, Decide on Your Principles, is that it's a matter of choice. What I want to get, if nothing else today, is that we choose our own principles. So we can choose the principles of our parents. We can choose the principles of our community. We can choose to adopt the principles of our nation or of the world. But we're a choice about those principles. That also means that we can choose to change or to adapt our principles based on our own experience and based on the people that we're hanging out with. We're a choice. That's where our power comes from. And I'm going to go so far as to say that your principles actually determine your experience of life. Your principles determine what you value, and what you value actually determines, dictates even your behavior and your actions. Now, there's an old saying that unfortunately has proven to be true in more of our history than in not. And it says that it's easier to defend, it's easier to fight to defend your principles than it is to live them.
Wow.
It's easier to fight to defend your principles than it is to live them. I mean, you ever wonder why the Christian church was at the basis of so much violence and war? So we're lucky here. Unity has given us 5 principles that we get to decide whether we want to play with or not. So the first unity principle, again, I told you, we say this every Sunday. There's only one presence. and one power as the universe and as my life. God the good, omnipotence. From the Bible in Deuteronomy it says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." In Ephesians it says, "There is one body and one Spirit and one Lord and one faith and one God and Father of all, who is over and through and in all." Doesn't get a lot more clear than that, does it? The Vedas, and I talk about the Vedas, the Vedic texts, those are the oldest. That's the oldest real book that's known in this world. It's the oldest spiritual text. It's made up of lots of different volumes, if you will. But in the Vedas it says, God is one. Sages call him by different names. And that's a good thing. You understand that we each have the belief that serves us at this particular time. And so does everybody else out there. None of those beliefs is any better or worse than others. I know it feels like it sometimes. See, some of us believe in a personal God with an actual personality, with qualities, with personal relationship. Some of us believe in an impersonal God, basically a God that manifests as principles, as law, as rules, impartial and impersonal. The good news is, it doesn't matter. There's a wonderful word that we never use anymore, but we use what came from that. The word is nomenon. You might sound a little like, well, don't you mean phenomenon? The word is nomenon. Nomenon is defined as a thing as it is in itself, as distinct from a thing as it is knowable by the senses through phenomenal attributes. All right, so let me give you an example, and then I'll say it again, okay? So this is a very sloppy and inaccurate example, but electricity and a light bulb. The nomenon is electricity. I can't really see it, I can't really feel it unless I stick my finger in the socket. I'm not really aware of its existence except that the lights go on. That's the phenomena. So what we're talking about is we're talking about the nomenon of God. Personal, impersonal doesn't make any difference. And the phenomena that we experience. And what I want to tell you is, it doesn't really matter what people believe. I know that sounds awful. We actually, if you believe in the first unity principle, or if you're working on the first unity principle, we are all, each and every one of us, working our way back to an awareness of our oneness, to an awareness of our Godness. And we're each doing it in our own way. But we are all on the same path. Very simple, by the way, another illustration of trying to make this a little easier. Some of us wear glasses. Some of us should wear glasses and don't. See, the deal is, the prescription for my glasses is designed specifically to match the state of my vision. And your prescription matches the state of your vision. And no matter what glasses you wear, no matter what the prescription is, our joint goal is to be able to read the chart of the DMV. Try and make it obvious, okay? I am. Our essence is God, therefore we are inherently God. Oops, did I say it wrong? What we've done, guys, is we've dummied down the truth so that it is palatable to the masses. The truth is, our essence is God. We are inherently God. Now, what we say nowadays, we're inherently good. But the truth is, we're inherently God. We cannot be anything other than that if you believe anything at all about the first unity principle. Do you understand? If all there is God, I'm part of all there is. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Because if this is true, is it possible that there really are some good people and some bad people? Sure looks like it, doesn't it? But the question I want you to ask, whenever you see the bad people out there, do they define themselves as bad? Or is it just our perspective that makes them seem bad to us? So now we come down to this whole world thing. You know, is it real or is it an illusion? Doesn't that drive you nuts? It's all an illusion, guys. No big deal. So what I want to tell you is, it's like a dream. As long as you're asleep, it is very, very real. When you wake up, you see it differently. So I'm never going to try to tell you or me that my experience here isn't real. But it is just my experience here. It is another level of reality. Another way to say this is that things in your world are real to you to the degree that you believe they are. You all know that, don't you? I mean, sometimes you have really valued something and then maybe, how silly of me. This has been really important. I know this is true. And later on you go, yeah, but this is true now. So I'm going to go a little farther now and come back to some of our roots. And I want to say that if you believe in principle number 2, then I have to tell you it is impossible that you were born in sin or that you were a born sinner. In fact, I'm going to tell you, you cannot even become a sinner. Now you can act like it, okay? And lots of us do. But what is perfect, God, cannot also at the same time be imperfect. So what do you believe? What principles are true for you? What unity is saying in principle, and I have to say that, by the way, because I do not profess that unity, or everybody in unity, or even the leaders in unity, actually live these principles. But what we profess in our principles is that God is in all beings. In fact, what we really profess, if you really push it, is God is all beings. Now, the only difference between you and I and any of the other people in this world is the degree of manifestation. It's not the degree of godness, it's the degree of manifestation in and through me. Each one of us is an occluded or shaded or partially blocked representation of God. You know, we're busy making shadow puppets on the wall and pretending that's who we are. That's exactly, by the way, how movies are made. Movies are just a series of shadows or occlusions or blockages of the light, which look really real out there. And that's all we are. Variously occluded, diluted expressions of God. Now, I have to clear up another potential misunderstanding, and there may be only one presence, but there are lots and lots and lots of different and varied manifestations of God. So oneness doesn't mean sameness of manifestation or expression. Oneness actually means sameness of origin or essence. So essentially, we need to celebrate our diversity. We need to go, thank goodness, we're all playing different parts. Because all of us are expressing the exact same energy of God, we just do it differently. And, by the way, we each are expressing, experiencing natural spiritual law in accordance with our current level of consciousness. So understand me that I'm not saying that everybody out there is being perfect God. Everybody out there is working on it. Each of us is doing the best we can with what we currently know and understand and believe to come back to an experience of our oneness. And unfortunately, it's a little like an alcoholic. This world is pretty addictive, by the way. And sometimes you just plain old need to bottom out before you can choose again. So do we have lots of our world population bottoming out? You bet. And if you talk to any AA sponsor, they'll say that's the best thing that could possibly happen. Because now they're ready to make a change. Now they're ready to wake up. We have an addicted world. It's bottoming out. And we need to go, yay, God. All right, let's go for 3. Third unity principle is thoughts create. And what it says here is we are creators as God, creating reality through thoughts held in mind. Now, I want to point out something, because this is really easy. I talked about watering things down, making them palatable, kind of easy to digest and all that kind of stuff. It does not say we are creators just like God, creating reality through thoughts held in mind. We are creators as God. There's a big difference. Now, there is a quote that most of us have heard, and philosophers in the world call this a causal chain of character. Okay? I like it. Big words, sounds really important. You know, the fun thing about this quote is that it has been attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson, to Lao Tzu, to Mahatma Gandhi, to Buddha, and even to Margaret Thatcher's father. So I didn't tell you anything else. It ought to tell you that truth is truth no matter who says it. And some of the statements of this truth have been stated as fact. Some are stated more like an equation or a formula. Some are stated as a warning. Some are stated as a prescription. And the one that we actually are most familiar with, or the one I'm choosing today at any rate, is the only one I think you guys have probably heard, I like it because it actually emphasizes awareness and choice. And the quote came in that faraway time of 1977 by that well-known philosopher called Frank Outlaw, who was the president of Buy-Low grocery stores. I mean, where are you going to get this? And yes, lots of other people said it lots of different ways, but this is the way he said it. He says, watch your thoughts. They become words. Watch your words. They become actions. Watch your actions. They become habits. Watch your habits. They become character. And watch your character, or it becomes your destiny. So what I want to leave you with this morning is the question. And you don't have to answer it right now, we'll put you on the spot. But ask yourself, what are your foundational principles? What is it that guides your conduct and your actions every single moment in your life? And I guarantee, by the way, something does. And once you've done that, you ask the famous old Dr. Phil question, well, how's that working for you? Because see, if you don't like how it's showing up in your life right now, you can choose again. You can choose a set of principles that actually will yield the results that you want to have in your life. Right up here we have our mission statement. Our mission statement is love in the world. Now, in case you hadn't noticed, that's not a sentence. On purpose, it's not a sentence. It can mean we are loving the world. It can mean you are loving the world. It can mean we ought to be loving the world. But I'm going to suggest that a pretty useful principle would be there is only love in the world. And our job, if we choose to accept it, is to recognize and celebrate that love. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.